and Andrew Friedson for opening remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions. Council President, to you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Great to be back here after our post-budget recess. I know many colleagues and I have had numerous conversations with members of the media over the last few weeks, but it's great to be back here for our regular media availability with you all. And so we can give you some updates and answer some questions. Before I open up the floor to some questions, just want to give you a few quick updates. Earlier this morning, I was proud to join County Executive Mark Elrich, County Councilmember Evan Glass, my colleagues, and several members of the LGBTQ plus community for the Pride Progress Flag raising ceremony to officially kick off Pride Month in Montgomery County. This is the 6th year that the county has officially and formally recognized June as Pride Month, and that has been an effort that has been spearheaded by Councilmember Glass, the first LGBTQ plus elected council member in Montgomery County history. As states across the nation introduce restrictive laws targeting the LGBTQ plus community and our youth, we in Montgomery County are continuing to strive to create a welcoming, inclusive community that celebrates our diversity and builds bridges for community members of all identities to make sure that everybody knows that they're welcome here, that they are included here, that they're valued here, and that we want to uplift them here. We want to send a positive message, especially to our youth, that everyone is welcome in our community and that you should be able to be your authentic self, to be who you are, to love who you are, and to live the life as the person that you are. We encourage all residents to participate in many of the Pride events that we have taking place throughout the month, and I look forward to partaking in many of them myself, along with colleagues at the council. We'll be hosting our commemoration for Pride Month on June 25th with a council commemoration, which will include a proclamation and a video presentation. So hopefully we'll see you there for that and look forward to seeing you at many events around the community in the meantime. Last week, I wanted to note the really challenging tornadoes and natural weather events that we had, and just to express my deep gratitude and appreciation to all of our first responders in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, the Department of Transportation, among others, our local partners, the City of Gaithersburg Police in particular, as well as PEPCO, who assisted residents in the aftermath of the tornadoes that swept across the northern part of our county last week. Want to especially as well thank the leadership of the municipal partners in Gaithersburg and in Poolesville that were hit particularly hard, and all of the residents who stepped up to help their fellow residents. This was a really challenging time for community members. Express our thoughts and our well wishes to those families who continue to rebuild their homes and recover after the tornadoes that swept through their residences and their neighborhoods, and continue the cleanup efforts and down wires. And appreciate all of the work to make sure that those efforts were swift, that our community members were responded to, and just really proud to live in a community where we have so many great public servants and community members who are willing to step up in times of need and in times of crisis. And while it was a dark moment in our community, both literally and figuratively, it was an opportunity for those lights among us to really shine through. And so we really appreciate that. Speaking of public safety, as many of you know, the county executive recently announced his police and fire chief nominees. The council will interview both Chief of Police nominee Mark Yamada and Fire Chief nominee Corey Smedley this month. The police chief interview will be tomorrow, and the tentative date for the fire chief interview is now scheduled for June 25th. So we're moving with due haste on both of those nominations and look forward to continued and robust conversations. The Chief of Police nominee, Assistant Chief Mark Yamada, he's a 35-year veteran of the force. I have had the honor and privilege of working closely with Assistant Chief Yamada in his various roles within the department over the years. I will just say that he is a distinguished public safety professional and brings with him over 3 decades of experience with our police department, and has deep ties to the Montgomery County community and the community at large. And the nominee for fire chief is Corey Smedley, who we know a little bit less well, but is no stranger to the Washington, D.C. region, is a former top fire department official in both Prince George's County, our neighbor to the east, and the city of Alexandria to the south. Look forward to learning more about Mr. Smedley's service and vision as the next fire chief for Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services throughout our council review process and the interviews. While Mr. Smedley is new to Montgomery County, he does have more than 33 years of fire service experience across the Washington region. So we look forward to both of those conversations. Obviously, these are two of the most important jobs and roles in Montgomery County government and in Montgomery County more broadly. Like all nominations we receive from the county executive, we will do our due diligence to thoroughly review the candidates during the interview process and also work swiftly to make sure that there's a smooth transition and a continuity of service to county residents. And I just wanted to note with the police chief, we are saying hello to a new police chief nominee, but we are going to be saying goodbye to a outgoing police chief, somebody who I have been proud to consider both a partner and a friend, Chief Jones, on his well-deserved retirement. We will be recognizing him on June 25th after his many decades of public service and distinguished career in public safety. And so we want to thank him for that. There'll be more opportunity to do that, but just wanted to express my appreciation for that. A quick update on the Great Seneca Plan. We have a public hearing coming up this week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. This is the planning board draft of the Great Seneca Plan, which is intended to connect the life and science corridors along the 270 corridor. The Great Seneca Plan covers over 4,300 acres along the 270 corridor between the cities of Gaithersburg, Rockville, and the town of Washington Grove. We want to hear from residents about their vision for the future of this area, which includes the Life Sciences Center, Quince Orchard, National Institutes of Standards and Technology, NIST, Londonderry and Hoyles Addition, Rosemont, Oakmont, Walnut Hill, Washingtonian Light Industrial Park, Washingtonian Residential, and Highwood. The deadline to sign up to testify at the public hearing is tomorrow, June 11th at 5 p.m. Speaking of retirements, I did also want to note that we have our Director of Public Libraries, Director Vassallo, who will be retiring, and tomorrow will be presenting Anita Vassallo with a proclamation. Director Vassallo has one of the most extensive careers in county government, having worked in our county library system for more than 50 years. She has began that distinguished career as a shelving assistant at age 15 at what used to be the Four Corners Library and the Woodmore Shopping Center. Fast forward to 2017, she was appointed just before I joined the council as the director of Montgomery County Public Libraries and has been serving in that role for about 7 years. Through her innovative leadership, she has led the library system through significant transformations, including the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and successful integration of digital services and resources and streaming platforms of late. The idea of a library, which has always been an education center, a community center, an early child care center, a senior center, and so much more, has changed dramatically in her tenure in leadership in the library system. And just want to thank her for all of that vision and leadership that she has provided in strengthening community engagement efforts and fostering partnerships with local organizations, creating new programs to address the diversity of our changing and growing county population, and just wanted to personally express my well wishes to her on her extremely well-deserved retirement, which we hope includes lots of dedicated time to reading more books. Let me just add one point here. We haven't had a media availability since the horrible news that we learned a couple weeks ago about the Maryland probation officer, and just wanted to express my personal and the council's condolences and heartfelt sympathies to the loved ones and colleagues of Agent Davis Martinez, who served with distinction as a Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correction Services official for more than 6 years before being tragically killed in the line of duty. He is the first Maryland Division of Parole and Probation agent in the state to ever be killed by a parolee while on duty. We were absolutely heartbroken to learn of this news, and it highlights the dangers that law enforcement officials face every day as they serve and protect the public, and that their families undertake every day, knowing the risk and the sacrifice that they are making on a daily basis. Our county and our entire state are safer thanks to the sacrifices of dedicated officials like Agent Martinez, who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe. And I just want to express my deep appreciation to all of the families of all of our public safety professionals in the Montgomery County Police Department, the U.S. Marshals Task Force, and all law enforcement who came together in our community for their swift and successful efforts in apprehending the suspect, and in the risk and the sacrifice that they make every day, that their families make every day, in order to keep us safe and in order to make our community as strong a place as it is. The memorial for Agent Martinez is scheduled for June 22nd at Living Word International Christian Church on New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring. We know that it will be well attended, which is well deserved for a hero of this caliber. And we just want to again express our condolences and deepest sympathies, both from myself, but also from all of Montgomery County Council and all of Montgomery County government. We are deeply, deeply grateful and expressing our condolences and sympathies. With that, let me open it up to questions from each of you. I'll turn it back to you, Jordan, to help facilitate.
Great. Thank you so much, Council President Friedson. Reporters, again, if you have any questions, note that in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'll call on you accordingly. Up first, we have Kate Ryan from WTOP. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. Always slow on the unmute. Sorry. Let me ask about the upcoming confirmation meetings with the prospective chiefs of police and fire. Assistant Chief Yamada has, as you said, he's well known. He's a known quantity. He's comes with you know, the endorsement of the current chief. But there are community groups who do have issues with him being appointed chief. So can I ask you, will that come up at that confirmation interview? What do you want to ask him about? And you've mentioned that for Mr. Smedley, he's not as well known, but he's known in this area. So again, what kinds of questions are you going to have? What issues are going to matter most in giving a thumbs up or thumbs down on these appointments?
Well, the answer to the question at a high level is yes, of course, all the questions will be in play to be asked, whether it's an internal candidate or an external candidate. We have a process for a reason, and we ask questions for a reason. I will say, I think Assistant Chief Yamada's public service record speaks for itself, and I very much appreciate the nomination by the county executive. My questions will be focused on what does he see as the top issues facing the department? How does he intend to address them? What is his plan for moving the direction of the department forward? How does he intend to address the public safety concerns of the community, the morale within the department? How do we increase recruitment efforts and address retention issues? These are major challenges facing our police department that are not unique, but are no less a challenge. And how do we utilize and leverage technology and best practices from around the country and around the region in order to deal with the new realities of modern policing? And how do we ensure that it is helping to meet the needs of our community to keep our residents safe? I think he's certainly up to answering those questions, but he'll have the opportunity to do that and to prove that tomorrow. Ultimately, it's our job to make decisions for what we think is in the best interests of the community and of our residents. And I have the full confidence that the county council is up to doing that, and that we will do our work efficiently, effectively, but quickly. And we will make sure that we are moving forward to ensure the leadership of the police department that our residents deserve, that our officers need, and that our community requires.
And then how about for Mr. Smedley? After last week, you could see the emergency crews, all they had to deal with. Is that something that's going to factor into the questioning? And what do you want specifically from him? And what are constituents telling you that they want in their next fire chief?
Well, I'm someone who actually, my life was saved by first responders. I had an anaphylactic reaction when I was 19 years old. I had to be intubated. And so if anybody understands the seriousness of the job of fire chief and the need for leadership in that role, it's me. And one of the unique aspects of Montgomery County is that we have a shared system between volunteers and career firefighters, all of whom are professionals, all of whom are trained, all of whom are stepping up each and every day to meet the needs of our residents, whether it's in a tornado or in an individual crisis like the one I faced when I was younger. And we need to make sure that as fire chief, he is up for the unique nature of our complicated system, but our system that I think serves the needs of our residents incredibly well. There's obviously always room for improvement. I look forward to hearing how you take a great system and make it better. I look forward to hearing how he intends to work together with the relevant stakeholders, both community-based stakeholders, volunteer stakeholders, the union, and others to ensure that we have the type of leadership in that role that we need. Obviously, he's no stranger to this region. He's no stranger to the profession. And I have had an opportunity to meet with him briefly. I look forward to a greater opportunity to meet with him and ask more questions. But ultimately, this is a very important and very serious job, and one that I know that I have questions and colleagues will have questions, but ultimately I feel confident that we'll be able to move forward in a constructive, productive, and positive way.
Thank you. And before I log off on that, can you talk about that incident? You were 19. Was that here in the county? Was that local EMTs? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was here in the county where I was born and raised, the only place I've ever called home. It was between going back to college at University of Maryland. I was at my parents' house. I was stung twice by a wasp. And I did not know I needed an EpiPen, which now I do and carry with me. I ultimately had to be intubated. I've told the story before. I don't know whether or not it was a IAFF member, a volunteer. All I know is the person who showed up was trained. They were professional. They worked in tandem as a team, and they got me back to health. I regained consciousness in the ambulance. By the time I got to the hospital, frankly, I was fine. I had to be monitored, but was perfectly healthy. So I am here thanks to the dedicated work of first responders in Montgomery County, and it's something that I will never forget, and certainly weighs on me when we make decisions like who is the next fire chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. Up next, we have Brad Bell from ABC Channel 7. Good morning, Brad. I think you're still muted. Brad Bell, ABC Channel 7. I see your hand raised. I'll give you a few moments. Okay, we'll come back to you, Brad. Reporters, if you have any other questions, you can note that in the chat or you can raise your hand accordingly. Any other questions? Okay, Brad, I guess we'll just reach back out to you. If you have any questions, please let us know. Kate Ryan, I see you have another question. Kate Ryan, WTOP.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow, the school board will meet. They're going to be voting on their budget. Now I was out last week, but prior to, we saw the parents with the virtual academy who held a protest and are very unhappy. What do you think about the process as it stands right now? I saw MCEA president, Ms. Martin, said that if someone couldn't, I believe the term was cough up $10 million, they could forestall some of the furloughs that might have to happen. What are your thoughts on this school budget? And has the board been as transparent as you all expected and needed?
Well, There is a lot of room for the board to be more transparent than it has been, and we continue to advocate for that. We've done everything that we can. We included accountability measures in this newly approved budget that we included for the first time ever, that I worked closely with colleagues in order to ensure was included in that budget. The budget hasn't started yet. By our rules, we have to pass a budget by June 1st. We have done that under our charter, which is the county's constitution. That budget year doesn't start until July 1st. So we have a budget. It has passed. We added $26.3 million to the budget based on what the county executive recommended for the FY25 operating budget. That's $157 million more funding than was approved for last year. So, which is the baseline funding of what they are operating under this year. Ultimately, it's up to the Board of Education and MCPS leadership to make decisions on how they prioritize their funding, and whether that funding is going to be prioritized to the classroom, to students, and to educators. We also authorized an additional $20 million so that the fiscal challenges that the school system was facing based on their employee health care costs wouldn't have an impact in the current or next immediate fiscal year on classroom instruction. So we have stepped up in a significant way to add a significant amount of additional funding, both on what the county executive recommended in his budget in March and in what was approved last year. We supported as well the $1.85 billion for infrastructure projects through the capital improvements program, and the $3.3 billion, as noted, for the operating budget for the school system. But I want to be clear, this is a management issue. It's not a fiscal issue. Rather than be accountable, this idea of using hyperbolic, hypothetical scenarios to obfuscate responsibility is not helpful to the public. It is destructive, I think, to parents and families who are understandably concerned. It is extremely damaging to the trust with educators who are relying on the communication from MCPS to understand what their jobs, their careers, the impact on their families are going to be. The board's approach in coming in very late in the game, and in fact, after the game is already over in some cases, in stirring up additional controversy is totally inappropriate and is a disservice to the families who rely on MCPS to educate their children, to the residents and our public, to our educators who are working in the school system each and every day, to our frontline staff who are providing services to our students and teachers and families, and to the residents and businesses who fund it on a daily basis. And just to be clear, these are priority decisions, and the board has the decision to make. And questions should be asked and continue to be asked of how many of those teachers could be funded on the $1.3 million in additional legal fees that were reportedly expended, more than the $462,000 from the prior year, the $1.3 million in settlement costs based on a board dispute, the $49,000 a month for the Board of Education to have a new facility and new space rented when it is sitting on dozens of underutilized and vacant properties. There are real questions that need to be asked of the board. I appreciate the families and educators who are demanding those answers. The council will continue to push and demand for those answers to those questions as well. But it should be clear that the county council added $157 million more than last year's budget, funding at a level that is 99.2% of what was requested, to suggest that there are draconian cuts that are needed at a 99.2% funding level based on the request. Things like laying off teachers and breaking contracts is absolutely unfathomable. and reflects a woeful lack of leadership, accountability, and responsibility. I think our residents deserve better, our students certainly deserve better, and our educators and staff deserve better.
Last question for you, because I know kids came before the council. They went before, of course, the Board of Ed throughout the aftermath of the pandemic, and had called for more mental health services, The elimination of Dr. Kapunen's position, do you have a response to that and that office going by the wayside?
Well, again, these are decisions that are priorities or lack of priorities of the Board of Education, and ultimately they need to answer for those decisions.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kate. Brad Bell, we're going to circle back to you. Brad Bell, ABC 7.
Sorry, I
No
couldn't get the button to work, doggone button. Hey, education funding in broader terms. I just left the Prince George's County Executive. They got their outlook downgraded to negative, just like the state did. In large part because of the looming blueprint obligations. We're seeing a negative outlook for the state, negative outlook for Prince George's. You guys are still stable. Is it getting harder and harder to sort of handle these school budgets? I mean, there'll be a rally this afternoon. They're talking about these cuts. You funded at 90. Is it just going to get harder and harder to fund the schools? Does something need to change to meet these obligations of the blueprint?
Well, the blueprint requires significant investments. Many of those investments are focused on teacher pay, are focused on targeting high-risk schools, community schools, and are focused on expanding early childhood access, all of which we strongly support. Ultimately, we need support from the state to fund the blueprint. There are a lot of requirements the blueprint requires. We need funding mechanisms from the state in order to meet those needs. Ultimately, in Montgomery County, we have funded the school system over the last couple of years at historic levels, not just more than last year, which is something that generally happens with rare exceptions, but the level of increases above maintenance of effort and above the prior year funding has been light years beyond anything that has happened, in recent memory. And I'm proud of that. It's obviously a important investment. It is, I believe, the most important investment that we make. It is the reason why most of our families move here. It is something that drives much of what we do in Montgomery County. So we're continuing to push for funding, but we want accountability for that funding. We want to make sure that we're getting educational outcomes for that funding. And so we're going to continue to push the envelope to the extent that we can within the means that we are provided as careful stewards of taxpayer dollars to fund our priorities, which starts with our public education system. The ability to meet those needs moving forward is going to be important, but it's not just how much we spend. We also need to make sure that we're getting the educational outcomes for the investments that we're making. And we need to continue to push the Board of Education to make sure that that happens.
Yeah, so you just had some fairly strong words about mismanagement answering Kate's question. Is just continuing to put more and more money as required by the blueprint an answer, or is it time to look at is it time to take a harder look at how that money is being spent and how these school systems are managing it?
Well, fortunately, we're doing both. The additional funding that we have provided in Montgomery County has been tied to additional scrutiny within the confines of the state's laws that restrict the county council and county government from being able to overstep, so to speak. I think those restrictions go too far. I think we should have more authority than we have, but within the confines that we have done quite a lot. So number one, we have created an entire new division within the Office of Inspector General. I have led efforts at the County Council to expand the role in general of the Inspector General for greater transparency and accountability in government at large. And we have specifically targeted that to adding 2 positions last year and 2 new positions in this budget for next year, specifically to scrutinize Montgomery County Public School spending and financial management and efforts. We also, in my first meeting as the council president, commissioned the Office of Legislative Oversight to undertake a project to take a look at all of the existing reporting that the Montgomery County Public Schools provides at the state, federal, and local level to look at best practices around the country of what reports we have, whether or not those reports are talking to one another, whether or not we are getting the type of reporting that is appropriate for a jurisdiction of this size and scope and magnitude, and to employ best financial reporting practices. And so we're moving forward with that. And as noted earlier, for the first time ever, we have included budget language in this recently approved budget that starts July 1st that has specific accountability metrics in it, which we have never done before, which has never happened before, which I have pushed along with colleagues to make sure happens. So in that budget resolution, we are targeting and focusing this funding with an expectation that the additional funding is going to go specifically to improving student achievement outcomes. We want to increase funding that is needed for our public education system, but we want to make sure that it goes to improving outcomes for our students and making sure that it is directed to those students and to the places where there is the greatest needs. So I don't think blindly adding funding is something that makes sense, but I do think that the funding that we have provided at the levels that we have provided, with the additional accountability measures that we have taken at an unprecedented level, has met the moment, and I think will put us in a position to meet the moments that follow.
Thank you. And glad you survived your wasp stings.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Me too.
Great. Thank you so much, Brad. I don't see any other questions from reporters. Reporters, any last minute questions, you can note in the chat or raise your hand. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, back to you, Council President.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the thoughtful questions. Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow for our first meeting back after our post-budget recess and for what is the beginning of a very busy summer. So take care and look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.